Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got it!
Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30. He's going to go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard Indiana Sports Feed Radio, coming to you here on this Friday, of course, from the beautiful BB's Marketplace here in Bloomington, part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Group. Make sure you go to your as sponsor, as well as sponsors of Indiana Sports Feed as well. Also, Andy Moore Honda. So go to AndyMooreHonda.com. For always the best deals in new and used vehicles. We appreciate those guys so much. Welcome aboard, Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com, alongside, as always, John, the producer, at the wheel to keep things rolling. Another big show here. Alec Lasley will join us from Hoosier.com. Zach Osterman from the Indian Star. Last night, Indiana with a 101-49 victory over Bethune-Cookman. And there is a lot to unpack there, Dustin, when it comes to Indiana's shooting and their shooting woes for people that have complained a lot about that. Last night was not the night to complain about that.
No, it wasn't. And you know what was really impressive is I thought Indiana early in the game kind of struggled from behind the three-point line. Maybe forced some shots, missed an open look here or there. And then Trey Galloway comes in off the bench and he hits two big threes. And I think at that point it was, I don't know, maybe 14-12. And he hits those two big threes. And after that, it was game over. And that's what you expect a team like Indiana to do against a team like Bethune-Cookman. But for them to finish 10-24 from behind the three-point line, for Trey to come in, hit a couple big threes, and then kind of get the momentum rolling. And then Miller Kopp, I mean, just an outstanding performance, 4 of 6 from behind the three-point line. He played really well last night. The thing that continues to stand out to me about Indiana, I mean, they are just so suffocating on the defensive end, and they're able to work down the shot clock. I think Bethune-Cookman had, I don't know, gosh, it felt like 10, but it was probably 3 or 4 shot clock violations. Just a really well-rounded performance, great defensively, able to shoot the ball really well, just under 60% for the day, over 40% from behind the three-point line. That's exactly what you want. You're not going to get that day in, day out from this Indiana team. It's hard to do that in the Big Ten. But 10-24, that's kind of the neighborhood I was talking about yesterday where I wanted to see the three-point shooting against this kind of team. And, man, they delivered.
Well, one of the things that stood out to me is Miller Kopp not only shooting so smoothly, but confidently, and we'll hear from him later. But he just drills 2 beautiful-looking threes. He has 8 points in a matter of moments, and he's hit 6 of his last 8 going back the last game and a half. That's a great span for him. But he was looking for the ball last night, looking to take his shot last night. He was not afraid. As a matter of fact, Indiana worked. I don't know if they worked to get him a shot. "15 seconds of the game opening up." So that was not going to be the case last night. He did not hit that one, but it was one of the few that he missed because he got into a rhythm, looked great, but everybody did. Again, you had a night where 3 of 12 or whatever it was. Not great night shooting for those guys, but guess what? The rest of the team, 68% from the field. That's what great teams have. Shoot 60-something%. More importantly, those 20 of 20, or 21 of 22 free throws. Let's talk about that for a minute. You go from the night before, they couldn't, or the game before, they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat from the free throw line.
Right.
And now you come back and damn near set a record.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things Kyler Staley was talking about yesterday. He wanted to see this team shoot better from the free throw line after they struggled in that opener against Morehead State, and you definitely saw that. I mean, it looks to me now like that Morehead State game, they were obviously still working out some of the kinks there, and shot the ball so much better against Bethune-Cookman last night. And the other thing, that I wanted to see from a player standpoint is what will Xavier Johnson do if he's not feeling it, if he's not getting his shot? He hasn't gotten it going here in the first couple games, but last night just 1 of 3 from the floor, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. That's impacting the game even when you're not scoring. And I think that to me was a big question I had about this kid coming into the season. Would he be able to be effective defensively? Would he be able to impact the game in other ways when he's not scoring? And he's been able to do that. And I think that last night, yeah, we're going to see some things, right, with Xavier coming up. We're going to see some things about this team and about Xavier Johnson. But even though he's not scoring the basketball, even though he's not producing on that front, he's still finding ways to impact the game, and that is hugely important. He's not letting it affect his confidence. That is critical for this team to be successful this season.
Yeah, not only that, but that goes into Jalen Hood-Schifino. Perfect example, not having the shooting night that he would have liked to have had from behind the arc only, by the way, not overall. I'm trying to get last night's stats pulled back up. But it's all the other things. Well, I know that, but it's all the other things that he does and did in that game to help this basketball team. Oh, there they are. Even in the first half, someone made a comment on Twitter, man, Jalen Hood as a point guard. I'm like, give me a break, dude. This is exactly what you want. You're going to have every game, probably someone is not going to be on. But what elite teams and good teams do is when those nights happen, the other guys pick up the pace. And that's exactly what happened last night. Is you look across the board. Malik Renew, 4 of 6. Chris Gunn, CJ, 2 of 2. Jordan Geronimo, 4 of 5. Trey Galloway, 3 of 5. Logan Duncan, 2 of 2. And how about the renewed shooting of Trey Galloway from behind the arc? He knocked down 50% of his attempts last night. So you have another 3-point weapon. You have 3-point potential weapons. As a matter of fact, last night, I think they had 7 different guys hit a 3-point shot, which that shows you the depth at that position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm only seeing 6. I thought there was 7, but still.
Yeah, I mean, it was a It was a fantastic performance all around. Some of the things, too, I just go back to some of the things we talked about with Kyler Staley yesterday. Indiana out-rebounds Bethune-Cookman 41-19. That was something that I know he talked about yesterday. Wanted to see some but, of course, when you make 59% of your shots, it creates fewer rebounding opportunities. But they got 12 on the offensive glass. The number that stands out to me, 27 assists on 35 made buckets. That is sharing the basketball. That is that's good team chemistry. I think that's a really good sign to see for this team. That means that they're playing together. They're not trying to play isolation basketball. They're not trying to play hero ball. That's a lot of really. I understand it's Bethune-Cookman. I know they got boat raced by Iowa. They got boat raced by Indiana. But early in this game, we're seeing what this team can do when they're firing on all cylinders. This is a team that right now, through the first couple games, everything you wanted to see, in my opinion, we've been able to see. Now it's just a matter of, can they do it against some of those better teams that are going to be on the schedule. But last night, every question we had basically about this team, free throw shooting, 3-point shooting, rebounding, we saw it last night. They delivered on all fronts.
Yeah, particularly the free throw shooting, especially when it comes off the back. But there's a clip, and if I hadn't been running behind this morning, I would have told John to reach out or to pull that particular one up. But it was during the players' Q&A. The answer kind of struck me. I think it was Trey. Was Trey Galloway in there last night? I can't remember. Everything's blurred. But whoever it was that said that we really took free throws seriously in practice. And as soon as he said that, I'm like, but they just been shooting them with no inner pressure, no outer pressure. And I can still stand there all day long and shoot free throws today.
Hey, let's break.
And I think that they showed making strides up that very thing. When you make 21 or 22, that's focus.
Yeah.
You're locked in. And damn, I feel bad, James. Crap, they were close to perfection. I don't care who you're playing. 21 or 22 free throws. That's what championship teams do.
Yeah.
You make hay when the sun is shining. Free throws are free, baby. 3 points. So you've got to use them at everything you can. And that's what great teams do, like I said. Now, this is against it's easy to do that. You get out there, you're all cocksure, you feel great, so just destroy it. So we'll see how that plays out when they're in a stressful game. But it's a good sign. We know they can do it. They can do it.
Yeah, and I know we got to take a break real quick, but the point, free throws never change game to game. That's the one thing you can kind of control. That's the one thing you can be consistent on. So it was good, even though they struggled from the foul line in that first game against Morehead State. The fact that they were able to go 21 of 22 in that last night was a huge sign of improvement, and like you said, Jim, a huge sign of focus.
I couldn't hear you. Go ahead. I've lost you. I've lost hearing you, brother.
Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and take a break. We'll come back with more after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're a business.
Hey, Jim, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Are you able to try something else? Your audio is very bad. Or it's really you keep cutting in and out. It's
Yeah,
like
I know. I don't
30
understand why.
seconds.
See, I don't understand why this goddamn hotspot's not working like it's supposed to. God damn Finkelstein shit kid, son of a bitch. Does anyone know where that's from?
Yeah, Finkelstein.
You're gonna be hanging out with it. Goddamn Finkelstein shit.
What
kid,
is that
son
from?
of a bitch?
Oh my gosh.
What is that from? It's gonna drive me nuts.
It's a great one. Oh, Strother Martin, one of the greats of all time, with the line, one of his only lines of that particular movie, and his only scene of the movie.
Oh.
All right, Jim, just a heads up. If this starts happening during this segment, I'm going to probably drop you out and text you because we can't do that again. The segment that just happened. That was really bad, audio-wise.
All right. I'm trying to enter the studio from here.
You there?
Yeah, I am for the moment.
You sound fine, I think.
Well, I don't know which one I'm coming through.
You're coming through the other one. I removed the other one. There you go.
Hold on.
Alec, I'm sure you did this on purpose, but in case you did it, you're muted.
No, I know. I was waiting until all the commotion kind of had settled down here.
Yeah. Jim, are you ready for me to bring us back in? Can he hear us now? I'm just so confused. Dustin, ask him something. I don't know if he's ignoring me or if he can't hear me.
You ready to go, Jim?
Jimbo, you good? I don't think he's good.
This is a disaster. I'm trying really hard not to lose my mind right now. All right. We're technically back from break right now, but I'm just waiting to do it because this is ridiculous. Jim, are you there?
I don't know what happened.
I really don't know.
You want to drop him? If you want to drop him, I can bring us back.
We're just going to come back in. I don't think he has a clue. Here we go. All right.
By Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. We're joined by Alec Lasley of the Hoosier.com after Indiana's 101-49 win over Bethune-Cookman last night. And before we start talking basketball, Alec, I got to ask, this has been a hot debate here the last couple weeks now that we're in the month of November. Christmas music appropriate right now? Yes, no, indifferent?
No, not until we get to Thanksgiving, and then we can put it on, but not until then.
All right. Well, that's fair enough. Last night, we talked about this a lot yesterday on the show, and one of the things we wanted to see, obviously, after kind of only going 4 of 11 in that season opener against Morehead State, we wanted to see this Indiana team shoot better from behind the three-point line. They also struggled from the free throw line in that opener, going 21 of 22 last night. I mean, I think we know what this team has defensively. They suffocated Bethune-Cookman yet again, and then they knocked down some really big-time shots last night. The series that kind of or moments that stood out to me last night was Trey Galloway coming in off the bench, knocking down 2 big threes, and that seemed to be the spark that team needed, because after that it was ball game over. They just kind of cruised. What were some of your kind of takeaways? I think the three-point line going 10 of 24, that's about what you need throughout the course of the season. If you can be in that ballpark, I think that's a really good sign for this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I think everyone was, kind of holding their breath after they hit the first couple threes to see if it would continue that way, especially after obviously the last few seasons, especially after the first couple games here. And then obviously on Monday where they only attempted 11, which you can't only attempt 11 threes and expect to win the Big Ten or expect to compete for Sweet 16s and Final Four. So that was definitely a step in the right direction, at least taking 24. And that's what they needed to do, right? You know, they were playing against a 2-3 zone. So they were forced to at least take some shots to keep the defense honest. And those first couple that went in, obviously relaxed them. And that's, I think, you know, one thing, even going back to some of the guys who were here with Archie Miller and were even recruited by him. That's one thing that I think, you know, was the big downfall, was there just wasn't a lot of confidence even after the first couple shots were missed. And you even saw that last year where if they missed a couple shots, just the confidence from the sidelines was still there. So especially if you make them, right, that confidence is going to go up even more. And you got Miller Kopp involved as well. And everyone just looks a lot more comfortable, even taking shots from the perimeter. Tamar Bates hasn't shot the ball great from the outside to start the season, but he's taking them, right? You know, Jalen Hurts-Shafino didn't shoot the ball great last night, but is at least taking those shots. And that's what you need to do, especially in these early games, right? Because let's be honest, they could have hit 5 threes and gone 5 of 24, and that still wouldn't have changed the outcome of this game. So you need to get that confidence going and seeing the ball at least get up there and having some open looks. And that's what Indiana did. But all in all, I mean, the one of the bigger takeaways for me is just the playmaking ability of Jalen Hurts-Shafino. We've talked about it all offseason. We talked about it in the first couple exhibition games. Didn't shoot the ball great, but had a terrific floor game all around. And I think he really settled into that role as the game went on, especially towards the end of that first half, where he realized his shot was not going to fall and this was not going to be his scoring night. And he took over kind of those main ball handling duties and obviously finished with 8 assists to 2 turnovers there, 3 turnovers it was with the late one. But his poise, his feel for this offense as a freshman, just 2 games in, is really outstanding. And his ability, I think, one of the more underrated parts of his game is in transition. And we've heard Mike Woodson talk. They want to play faster. They want to be quicker and get out in transition a little bit more this year with the versatility and the athleticism this team has. Xavier Johnson does that to a certain extent, but he's just not that playmaking guard in transition. He's looking to get downhill, whereas Jalen Hurts-Shafino, right when he gets a rebound, if it's a defensive rebound, he's looking up, ready to advance the ball. And you saw a couple times last night and even Monday, hitting Miller Kopp open in transition and really kind of dragging out the defense until the last possible second to get the ball over to whoever that shooter may be. And that's a step that Indiana did not have, and that's a part of this offense that Indiana did not have last year in Mike Woodson's system. And it's quite evident through 2 games that they're going to try to push the pace, whether or not it's a guard or a forward who grabs the rebound. And they're going to get out and go, and they're going to get some easy buckets. And you saw that last night as well.
Well, Alec, earlier I talked about the fact that last night you had a couple of guys that didn't shoot well, starters for that matter, in Jalen Hurts-Shafino and Race Thompson, who combined hit 3 field goals, but the rest of the team shot 65, 68%. A very similar thing happened the other night when Xavier did not have a good shooting night. The rest of the team still picked them up. This is something Indiana did not have last year. They had maybe 3 guys that they were counting on, and if one of them went down, it was greatly noticeable. Now you've got other guys that are stepping up. You've got Miller Kopp, who's hit 6 out of his last 3-point attempts. You've got Trey Galloway, who is now a threat from the 3-point line. Malik Renew is a threat from the 3-point line. There were 6 different players that hit from the 3-point line last night, and then they go and damn near set a record at the free throw line a game after shooting so poorly. These guys can shoot. So there's no concern with shooting. It's simply between the ears at the free throw line and then behind the arc. I forget what player had said it in regards to the free throw shooting, but they said that they took it very serious in practice this week. And that made a difference. It obviously conjures up in my mind thoughts of them going out and shooting thousands of free throws, but just doing it in an environment to where there's no pressure. Well, now you got to put that pressure on yourself, and by meaning saying they took it seriously, I assume that they understand that and somehow were able to manufacture some type of environment like that. But the point that I'm making is Indiana looks like a team that no matter if they have one or two players that are not having a good shooting night, man, there is a long line of guys that they can count on to back that up.
Yeah, and let's not get this twisted, right? Indiana's not going to hit 10 threes every single game. They're not going to go 21 to 22 from the foul line every single game. But this obviously shows this. They don't need to, though. That's the thing. This is great that they have, because it obviously shows everyone they do have the ability, they have the players, they have the skill set to do that. At the end of the day, it's just mental, and they're probably not going to get the same looks that they did last night against some of the better teams in the Big Ten. Certainly not against the Carolinas, the Kansases, and the Arizonas. Right? We'll see the first test against Xavier next week, but this just shows that they have that in their tool belt and their skill set as a team. That if they need to rely on shooting one or two games this year where they really don't have anything else, they probably will be able to at least get something going from that point of view. But they're not going to go 10 to 24. They're not going to start out 8 of 16 probably the rest of the season, right? They were in double digits when it comes to made threes last year, just 4 times. So, let's not get carried away and start thinking that they're going to become this prolific shooting team, which they haven't shown in the last decade almost. But it is a welcome sight to actually see the ball go down. The bigger aspect that I think is what should be super exciting, which probably will lead to better looks from three and raise that average from about 5 made threes a game to closer to probably 7 or even just 6. Just increasing it by 1 is the playmaking ability of everyone on this roster, right? They have 27 assists last night on 35 made field goals. At one point through the second half, just in the second half alone, they had 10 assists on 10 made field goals. And they basically had that throughout the entire second half until they started to bring in some of the end of the rotation there at the end of the game. And that's pretty phenomenal, regardless of who you're playing. The ball movement, 8 assists from Jalen Hood-Schifino, 6 from Xavier Johnson, 4 from Tamar Bates, and a couple other guys with 2 each, right? That shows you that you don't just have 1 or 2 guys. That is now 4, 5, 6 different guys who can make plays off of the dribble. And the biggest thing is that playmaking ability to get into the paint opens up so much more. And you saw so many more open shots, whether they were, kickouts to Miller Kopp, to Trey Galloway, right? Trey Galloway, I don't think, regardless of who would have been guarding him, probably hasn't seen an open 3 like that in his career. And he's not even that great of a shooter. That just shows you how much those defenders have to drop into the paint to stop the dribble drive. Whether it's a nice little shovel pass that Jalen Hood-Schifino and Xavier Johnson had multiple times and have shown multiple times this season to Race Thompson, Trace Jackson Davis, or Malik Renew. That's the major thing that you got to take away that will translate to each and every game. Obviously, that will help the shots fall, but at the end of the day, you can still have a million open shots, and that still needs to go in. But the playmaking ability of this team is I think what has definitely stood out more than anything else over the 2 games that we can really take anything from, and at the end of the day, we still can't take a lot from because of the level of competition.
Well, there are 2 things to me. One of them is I go back to the off season. And, and things just simple like media days. I felt like the players had a newfound confidence about them. They felt comfortable in their own skin. And I think Mike Woodson, kind of instilled that in them, in that confidence. And I think that was obviously where you see some of these confident shots coming from. But the other thing that I think you saw last night when you talk about that assist, 27 assists to 35 made buckets, about sweared on air. The thing that stands out to me is there's a lot of trust in this team that somebody else can get the job done. And you go back to, we talked about this in the first segment, for Jalen Hood-Schifino and for Xavier Johnson to go a combined 3 of 11, but to have 14 assists, 9 rebounds, finding ways to impact the game, knowing they don't have to carry the weight of this team and trusting their teammates. I think that's another thing. I'm not saying they didn't have that trust last season, but I think it's even better. The chemistry is better. The trust is better than it was a season ago. And you're right. We can't take a whole lot from these first 2 games, but I think that those are positive signs. And we're going to find out a lot a week from today when they go to Xavier and get that first real big test.
Yeah, I look forward to that. And, again, talking about the free throws or whatever it is, the sheer fact that you see what this team is capable of. I don't care who it's against, Cookman, Morehead State, or Bloomington South High School. When you can stay locked in like that, it shows this team, they have the capability. But we've known that before. They've been able to shoot free throws for 6 years. They just haven't hit free throws for 6 years because they have not been locked in. Whatever it's really befuddled me. I'm going to be honest with you, because it's been different guys that have come in and it's been weird. But just to see that is so refreshing, because that's a small detail. And when you're breaking down those kinds of small details, that way the other details are getting covered. The passes that this team makes, the amount of assists, the touches that guys get in transition, they're always looking for a better shot. I've seen several 3-point shots passed up that probably would have been forced up last season, because they know that, you've got either Trace Jackson Davis, Race Thompson, Malik Renew, Jordan Geronimo roaming around the paint area. That could be it's definitely one of, if not the most formidable front court threesome there is, and that's because of the emergence of Malik Renew. Alec, I mean, Indiana, we knew that they were going to be kind of deep, but his emergence as basically a third starter really elevates this team to. This is going to. I keep saying this. He's going to be problems for teams, but Indiana is going to be problematic because, man, you've beaten banged for the first 10, 11 minutes of the game, and so you get your big guy out for a breather. Trace goes out for a breather, but in comes Malik Renew. What the hell are you going to do with him? He's as good or better than Trace, but worse because he can step out and hit a 3 on you. And so do they have a guy that can guard that? Indiana just has so many options and ways to make it difficult on teams this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think you look just past even Malik Renew and you look at that bench as a whole, right? Trace Jackson Davis played the first 7 minutes, kind of 6.5 of that game last night. And then Indiana's bench took over and went on a 22 run just without any of those starters realistically in. Xavier Johnson played a little of those minutes, but you didn't have Race Thompson, you didn't have Miller Kopp, you didn't have your All-American and Trace Jackson Davis, and you went on a 20-2 run. And I think obviously the bench as a whole, through the first 2 exhibition games, the first 2 games of the regular season here, it's now becoming a trend that you can rely on, where even if all 4 of those guys in the rotation off of the bench aren't hitting every single night, you have a lot of confidence that at least 2 of those guys are. And I think one of the more underrated and parts of this team that really no one has talked about through the first 2 games has been the confidence of Jordan Geronimo. You look back to how his season ended last year. 15 points against Wyoming in the first 4 game. Still had a really solid outing, 9 points against St. Mary's when pretty much no one played well. And then the first 2 games of this season in double digits as well, averaging 10.5 through the first 2 here. So that 3 out of his 4 last games have been in double figures. Again, yes, a little bit of the competition that he's playing, but at the same time, had a step in 3 in transition last night, no hesitation, basically almost the exact same shot, just in the middle of the floor there, a quick turnaround from about 17, 18 feet to break that zone, no hesitation. Obviously, his defense is going to be there, showed some nice things in the half court as well out on the perimeter. And his growth, I think that was the biggest question mark that I had coming into this year. Is everyone was talking about the emergence of Tamar Bates and Jordan Geronimo and how they were going to help this team, but with Malik Renew and everyone kind of expecting him to kind of man the first big guy off of the bench, how was Jordan Geronimo going to fit into that? And I think he's fit in, if not as well as he could, better. I mean, he has put a different type of kind of versatility on the wing and in that front court with his athleticism. Not to knock any of those other forwards that Indiana has, but Jordan Geronimo has the most athletic ability out of that front court. And when you add him into that trio that you already have and have him playing at this level, that's something special when you put those four guys out there against anyone's front court. The experience, the length, the athleticism, the versatility that all four of those guys bring, that front court is I think one of the best in the entire country.
Without question. We've got to take a break, but we've got more to get to. Indiana basketball, of course, as the Hoosiers are now 2-0 on the season after last night's 101-49 victory over Bethune-Cookman. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com is with us, as is Dustin Schutte, as always, from theoutsider.com. We've got more coming up from Baby's Market here in Bloomington. Hey, stop by, enjoy a meal, or take home the fat ribeye steak of your dreams. All part of the Endeavor Hospitality Group and WOW Club. Make sure you go to your Apple App Store, Google Play Store today. Sign up for the WOW Club. Start earning WOW rewards. They are a great sponsor of IU Athletics, as well as that of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here.
All right, we are in much better shape now.
Fantastic segment.
I don't know how, because I didn't do anything but switch back to where I was on the.
Nothing with your Wi-Fi is different?
No, but I did send a text message out about getting it rectified.
Oh.
Saying, hey, forgot to mention, I meant to throw this comment up, but I will. Real Doc, appreciate you, man. It's either been a while or I haven't seen not the comment. I like you, but not the comment. But I understand. Trust me. But I appreciate it. I haven't seen you. Mike B. There you go. People that don't comment much coming on with the strong. Trust me, I just like to be in my position. Get home at your day started yesterday at 7:30. You get home last night at midnight, and you're back at it, trying to do it.
I think the point is, of the thing is, maybe since you had a night like that, don't do a remote show at BB's.
Why was there another game on? I didn't watch if there was a first game on. I watched the IU game. Was there a game
Ohio
on before? Is that why it was
on
8:30? Okay.
Yeah, Ohio State was. We love. What time's Xavier next week?
I think it's 6.
I'm pretty sure.
Thank
Yeah.
God it is earlier game. Thank God.
The Cintas Center. Ooh. How's Jerome Hunter doing for them, by the way? I'm curious if he's one of their.
There's a good
question. I think he had 9 in their opener, but in the exhibition, I think it's Jerome Hunter that Indiana fans have come to love and hate. He'll probably be hot one night, probably not show up in the box score the next night. Yeah. Similar to. Don't want to get off on a tangent here, but similar to Christian Lander last night, struggled in his opener there with Western Kentucky. That whole team did, but they squeaked out a win. But
how did he do?
9 minutes, 3 points, 3 fouls.
All right, here we go.
It's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Friday, live from BB's Market here in Bloomington, part of the WOW Club, Endeavor Hospitality. Make sure you go to your Apple App Store, Google Play Store, sign up for the WOW Club, start earning WOW rewards today. There are many of them. The restaurants in and around Bloomington, as well as BB's with his great meats, as well as the bakery. But there are so many options with Endeavor. Fresh Fork, vegetarian options with the Allery, Italian at Gabello, Metalworks Brewing Company. Yeah, I can go on and on. And there's more coming. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com with us right now as Indiana wins their second game of the early season, 101-49 last night. And Real Doc Bob made a comment that everyone should heed. Keep in mind, folks, these first two games, the competition, which is true. It's good to see Indiana stretch. Basically, we're seeing Indiana stretch their legs.
Yeah.
Get stretched out, Alec. And now they go to Xavier next, which we'll have plenty of time to talk about that because they get a week in between. Unusual, but they're going to have a week between. They go 2 days and play games. Now they're going to go an entire week plus before traveling to Xavier, which a road game this early in the season, a little unusual, but it's part of the Big Ten, Big East, or Dave Gavitt games. Started to call it the Big East Challenge. But Xavier should be a nice test. They're not. They seem like they're a middle-of-the-road team at best, maybe, but it's on the road. They have the home court advantage. You haven't been tested, so it should be a decent test for Indiana. We will get at least a real glimpse of what they can do in that environment because we saw them last year go on the road at Syracuse and just fall apart. I don't see that happening with this team, but I am interested in seeing how these freshmen that have played so well do on the road and how the guys like Trey Galloway and Miller Kopp that have come along, how they do on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the type of matchup that you want game 3, right? I think playing as many true road games in non-conference schedules that you can is going to benefit you, especially if you're a team like Indiana trying to, take that next step as a program and get back to the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 or whatever that may be. But especially with such a veteran team, right? If this was all freshmen, I don't think you probably want to be in that situation, at least this early on. But with this many veterans, this many guys who have been in college for at least 3 years or played in tough environments for 1 or 2 years already, this is a test that you want to have early on, especially with some big games coming up. Obviously with Carolina, Arizona, and Kansas there in the background. This schedule flips from pretty easy to pretty difficult like that, and it starts on Friday. And you throw in, a couple difficult Big Ten games in between there to start December, going to Rutgers. So you're going to learn a lot about this team and how they bounce back because I don't expect them to breeze through here and go undefeated in the next 4, 5, 6 games. So we'll see how they bounce back. I think it's going to be extremely important to get out to a good start on Friday. But at the same time, let's see what happens when they actually fall behind a little bit. What happens if they struggle to shoot the ball? Let's see if they resort back to their old ways of just trying to force feed Trace Jackson Davis and see what happens. Obviously, Malik Renew and Jalen Hood-Schifino have been rock solid to start their Indiana careers. But let's see what happens when they go into a real big test, especially on the road, where I expect obviously Friday night. Xavier has a lot of energy. They have a lot of good players coming back. They have Sean Miller there in his first year, so there's a lot of energy around the program. And this is their first big test as well. So, this is going to be, I think, a really good game. Obviously, two teams that aren't too far apart that typically don't really play that often, but it should be a very, very good test and a result that as long as you win this game, you're probably going to feel pretty good about yourself if you're Indiana.
Got Jack Nungy from down in the Newburgh area, I think, down by Evansville,
Yep.
which are friends on the Rap 97.7 ESPN down there in Evansville. Know him quite well. Started originally at Iowa and transferred from Iowa. Big, long, tall guy that he can take you outside, but Malik Reneau is a guy that will guard him. Few teams have a guy like that who's that big that can go outside, but I've seen him shoot from out there, so I expect to see that from him, but been looking forward to seeing that. Question from Michelle that was up a minute ago. How long does Indiana keep Malik Reneau now instead of Jalen Hood-Schifino? And that brings up the question to me. Jalen Hood-Schifino was Big Ten preseason freshman of the year. I think that Malik Reneau is going to actually end up being the Big Ten freshman of the year. And I think this will be the first time in history that a team has had a preseason pick of freshman of the year and ended up with a district freshman of the year.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think he gets there unless he starts, and I don't see him starting. I don't see you. Obviously, you're not moving Trace Jackson-Davis out of the starting lineup, and
No.
I don't think you're going to move Race Thompson out of the starting lineup because you need that punch
But
of
his
scoring
numbers,
with the
looking at
second
his
unit.
numbers,
Yeah,
know?
but you know that the numbers are great, but let's also look at who's around him, what his responsibility is when he's in, and the players that he's going up against, right? I don't think at this very moment Malik Reneau is going to be able to play 25, 26, 27 minutes a game. And so if he's not,
He doesn't have to play
then,
that.
yeah, so then why he can still play those 18 minutes a game coming off the bench and bring a nice spark in that second unit, which he's been doing, and then play against even, if the forwards on the other team are a little bit tired and they're still in the game, right? That's an advantage for Indiana. If Malik Reneau's going up against the second unit for whatever team he plays, that's an advantage for Indiana. So why bring him off why move him into the starting lineup when you're going to have
I'm
an
not
advantage?
suggesting that. I'm not suggesting.
No. But that's why I'm saying you're not going to.
You think he can only get that from the starting line? I disagree.
Yeah,
I think that he can.
But
I
he's
think
not going to put up. As a freshman of the year, you're going to have freshmen who put up 14 points a game, right? 12 points a game. Malik Reneau's probably not going to do that. He's probably going to stick right around
but it's
10, 9, or 6.
The impact that you have.
Yeah, but let's be honest. They're not going to give that to someone who is coming off the bench. That's just not what they're going to do.
Dustin,
Here would be.
Mike's wrong, damn it.
Here's can we maybe this is a compromise. Is there a chance, because I think we've seen one game.
Baby. No
I believe Jet Howard will probably be the best freshman in the Big Ten. But there is a chance that Malik Reneau could be the sixth man of the year. I mean, I don't think that's far-fetched.
Absolutely.
Not at all.
I think that's something that would happen a lot easier than being that freshman of the year. And yeah, regardless, even if Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Reneau don't win this award, I still think they're the two best freshmen long term and this year, and the importance that they're going to bring to this roster over any other player in the Big Ten. So regardless of if they win this award or not, they're still going to play a huge role for this team, and they're still going to be pretty successful in that role. And at the end of the day, Malik Reneau is extremely comfortable coming off of the bench. He's talked about that ever since he stepped foot on campus. I don't think there's a reason to change what you're doing with him, and I just don't see the stats. And as much as we in the media want to talk about giving awards to X, Y, and Z based off of how important they are to a team, unfortunately that's just not how it's done. People want to give it to the guy who's having the biggest statistical season, because if you don't, then people are going to kind of scratch their heads and look at you, with crazy eyes. So, he may end up being the best freshman, but I just don't think he's going to get the opportunity to showcase that every single given night with the minutes that he's going to need to win that award.
Here's a great question from Indiana Creek Walker. When was the last time Indiana beat a team by 50 and had two starters basically struggle with shooting. Kind of hard.
Who was the So question: who was the second starter who struggled shooting?
Let's see. What did I say?
Because I know who's. It's going to be Race Thompson and Xavier Johnson. Those are the two who didn't have big games.
Jalen Hood-Schifino was 0 for 5 from behind the arc. He struggled from behind the arc, I should say. Let me qualify that. He struggled shooting the 3-point shot last night, 0 for 5, and
so I guess this statement, it can be taken a few different ways, right? Because struggled with a couple guys. What does struggled mean? Because I don't think just because Jalen Hood-Schifino struggled shooting the ball, obviously I still think he had one of the better games from an Indiana player
I absolutely agree. And I sent out several text messages about that, how he impacts the game in other ways, even when he has a night that he shoots 2 of 8 and 0 for 5 from behind. He in the first half alone, he had a ton of his. He ended up with 8 assists in that game. 8 assists. And
he could have had at least 2 more. The dump off pass to Jordan Geronimo that he got stuffed by the rim, that should have been one. And then there was another one early in the first half that was a foul that could have been an extra one too. So theoretically he could have had 10. But and you look at Xavier Johnson too, right? I think last night was a very positive step for him. Only took 3 shots.
Yep.
And he played a lot more under control.
He struggled at the free throw line.
Yeah, he struggled right to begin the game with a few turnovers, but when you look at what he did, I still think that's something that 6 assists and 2 turnovers in 19 minutes. That's a pretty good line from a starting guard. So
4 rebounds and 6 assists for him. I mean, between Xavier and Jalen Hood-Schifino, you've got 14 assists between those 2 guys alone and 9 rebounds.
Yeah.
And they were a combined 8 of 9 from the free throw line. So that was my point. You know what? They're more than making up for areas where they may have a bad night. It's too bad Jalen Hood-Schifino missed that free throw. That may have set a record for him. Gosh, dang it. I think that might have set a record. I know they were 18 of 18, and they've been perfect 5 times, but that may have been the best. I'll have to go back and look. But anyway, it's amazing that we're. Can you imagine that we're talking about a free throw record?
Much different. Well, and just the way that we're talking is almost nitpicking, some of the details compared to the bigger issues that were around this program over the last few years.
Yeah.
And it's funny because people are talking about Woody and this and that and talking about substitution patterns and what do they got to say now? He's really starting to work that rotation. Everybody calls it the second unit. I hate calling it that, but I guess for lack of a better word, that's basically what you have. But man, there's just such little drop off with that group. I mean, they're going to be competitive with some starting units that they're going to be going against. And that's got to be very exciting for Hoosier fans. They have that to look forward to because this team is going to be special. I truly believe that. If you've got worries about shooting, well, I know that they played Bethune-Cookman last night, but look what they did last night. It's between the ears. Alec, what is up next for you? I know there's a lot of coverage last night from the Hoosier.com, of course, and you got some recruiting notes. Any news on recruiting, by the way?
Yeah, still big weekend recruiting-wise for Indiana. Dylan Harper, 5-star, is going to be on his official visit to Indiana this weekend, and then borderline 4 or 5-star 2024 as well. Santo Cyril, a big guy who potentially could reclassify to 2023. Both of those guys on official. Right? Yep, both guys on official visits this weekend. So big weekend there. On the recruiting side, I think still a long ways to go for Dylan Harper to end up at Indiana. But again, you're getting these visits now almost weekend after weekend of top 50, top 30 5-star talent. You're going to start landing some of those guys, and I think it does really roll over into this class of 2024 where you get a lot of those top 50 guys on your roster who have been visiting over the last few weeks.
Well, they're getting to see, Alec, they're getting to see Jalen Hood-Schifino start and play and succeed, and they're getting to see Malik Renew start and succeed, and that is what they haven't had yet. Now they've got to go out and win some big games. Go to Xavier, win that game. They win that North Carolina game. That sends them on a path. And even if they don't win, if it's close, but you really want to you get that win. That kind of that's like the stamp when Indiana beat Kentucky with the watch shot, but better because that was a great game and a great moment. This is actually a program that is moved upward, and it would really, to me, put the stamp that Mike Woodson has done the job of bringing this program back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole non-conference now moving forward, you have ample opportunities to make that jump and win some of these big games that we've been talking about. Starts obviously next Friday. I think is probably the most crucial one. You don't want to lose any steam going into any of these other matchups. But at the end of the day, you know, two out of these 4 games that you win, I think is going to be successful in the non-conference. But I think there's still a chance, right, that they could go and squeak out 3. But all in all, right, I think as an Indiana fan, you have to be looking at this team and be, especially after these 2 games now that actually count, be extremely excited about the potential and the realistic expectations that now have been set in front of you with this Indiana program.
Alec Lasley with thehoosier.com. Make sure you give him a follow and go to thehoosier.com. Get yourself a subscription and sign up. Keep up to date with all of the IU news and recruiting information going. Alec, thank you very much, brother. Have a great weekend.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
You bet. Hey, we've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Coming to you from BB's Market here today, as always, on this Friday. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joins us next. We're back with more after that. Barbara Pop Real Estate Services, taking care of you down in southern Indiana, Louisville, Floyd, Clark, Harris, and Scott counties down there. They have served that community for 3 decades. If you're looking for a home, that's the way to get into it. Barbara at barbarapop.com, or reach out to my man, Matt Lankin, Matt at barbarapop.com. And if you're in the Indianapolis area looking for a home, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience, reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore.
Let's see. Email is, or the internet is what? Oh, yes.
Morning, Zach.
Hey, I'm gonna use the bathroom real fast, but
Oh, you're fine. You're good.
Just
Yeah, now see that? How that popped up? Watch this. Okay. That should have came up though. Oh, I'm sending an email about Oh, that's awesome. Love that.
What in the world just happened? Well, guys, 30 seconds, and nobody is back. Hey, Dustin, don't know where Jim went, but and Zach said he'll be here in a second, so here we go.
Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today.
Bring us in,
Cheryl
Dustin.
at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Friday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from Beebe's Market here in Bloomington, part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wild Club. Make sure you go to your Apple app or Google Play Store. Sign up for the Wild Club, start earning Wild Rewards today. They're an IU sponsor, as well as that of Indiana Sports Beat. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star with us. Zachary, how are you, sir?
Hey, how are you doing?
Great. Holding this turkey has nothing to do with you. It just happened to be sitting here. Getting close to Thanksgiving. I'll talk about that later. Talking about Indiana basketball earlier, Zach, I know it's against Bethune-Cookman and Morehead State, but the eye test, especially last night, looking better and better from a shooting standpoint, but also a smart basketball standpoint. The free throws, obviously a huge jump up for them. And hearing, I forget, may have been Trey Galloway that said that they started taking them seriously in practice, which I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I understand that whatever it was, it got them in the right mental frame of shooting free throws, because had Jalen Hutchifino not missed his, I think they may have set a record last night.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't know what that means, specifically Galloway. I mean, sometimes it's something like you have to shoot 80 free throws before you leave practice, but then you're just shooting free throws to shoot free throws. You're not shooting them with anything on the line or, with anything to lose. I do think just more broadly, last night was the best we've seen Indiana look offensively. And I think there were some things that really crystallized for Indiana last night. I thought point guard play was fantastic. People will talk about the 3-point line. They had a good half and then a half where they really kind of abandoned the three. They didn't really need it, so they just let it go. I think it's interesting that through 2 games, Indiana's 39th in the country, according to Kim Pomeroy, in adjusted or in average possession length. They are playing faster than almost any other team in the country, and that's for a team that was pretty much dead middle of that stat last year nationally, and obviously under Archie Miller typically was in the bottom half of the country, if not even further down than that in that statistic. I just think Indiana looks very good offensively. I think they look fluid. I think they look aggressive. They don't make a ton of mistakes. I mean, last night, 13 turnovers to 27 assists. Turnover percentage a little high, 18.6%, but you can live with that when you're averaging more than 1.4 points per possession and when you're assisting 27 shots on 35 made baskets. So in general, I just think Indiana looks very good offensively, and I think last night's maybe a valuable lesson for Indiana that if you're willing to embrace the 3-point line a little bit, if you knock in a few threes, and if you hit your free throws, offense gets a lot easier because suddenly you don't feel squeezed for points, if that makes sense. And you look up, and at the end of the game, there's 8-9 more points on the board, and so you didn't feel like every possession down there. Of course, this is in games that are going to be more competitive than what last night's was. But you didn't feel like every possession down the stretch was live or die because you did the easy stuff to get yourself the easy points to make things a little bit less complicated.
Well, and last night, you brought this up. We've talked about it earlier in the show. The statistic that did stand out to me in watching this team play also last night was the 27 assists on 35 made shots. I mean, I think that there's a chemistry there that I don't know we've seen in the past, and I think, there's just this. I talked about in the offseason, I thought Mike Woodson did a really nice job of expressing confidence in his players and giving them the not giving them a short leash or putting the red light on them to shoot. He's talking about their confidence and giving them that confidence to shoot the basketball. But there's also a confidence among the teammates that they're going to get it done, just to kind of trust within each other. And I know it's Bethune-Cookman. I know they've played two teams that they should handle the way they've handled. But to me, through these first couple games, I just think there's a team chemistry there that we haven't seen in a while.
No, I think that's fair, and I think what you do in games like this is you're kind of putting a pin in different things. You're saying, okay, they hit 8 threes in one half, and it was mostly the product of really good offense. Will they do that when the competition stiffens? The bench has looked really, really good in not just Jordan Geronimo had 11 points and 4 rebounds last night, or Dre Galloway hit a couple threes, but you look at the plus minus, the bench has been consistently really impactful in terms of, almost sometimes more impactful than starters, in terms of growing leads and expanding gaps. And these are things that you just sort of make notes of in games like this, and then we'll watch them play Xavier a week from today, and we'll say, okay, did that prove to be true? Did that prove to be true, et cetera? But I think that I don't think you're wrong that there just seems to be more confidence in the collective, both in terms of skill and also possibly just in terms of sort of everyone appreciating the system and everyone appreciating all I need to do is go to my spot and the ball will find me. And if I have a shot, I'm going to take it. And if I don't, I'll reverse it because the ball will find somebody who's got a good look, because everybody on the floor can shoot. Everybody on the floor can score. We're not carrying passengers the way we were a year ago, where sometimes you'd look at Indiana lineups and say, geez, who's doing the scoring for this five, and how lopsided can a defense get toward that player or those players? And I think, and I'm, this is what my former colleague Dustin would call a shameless plug. It's what I wrote about last night. I think a lot of that is coming from Xavier Johnson and Jalen Hood-Schifino, neither of whom has had what you would consider like an eye-popping offensive night. Last night they combined for 15 points in the I'm losing my mind. The Morehead State game, they only combined for 11 points. Johnson only played 20 minutes in that game. He had foul trouble. But if you look at their numbers in that game against Morehead State, they had 7 assists to 4 turnovers. They had 3 rebounds between them. Last night they were even better. They had 9 rebounds between them, 14 assists to 5 turnovers. They finished a combined plus 55. And you start to think back to what we asked in the preseason about what are the questions we have about this team. Well, one of the big ones was, can those two coexist? Can you play both of those guys together? And if you do, what can they do for their teammates? And I think the answers to both of those questions, through to admittedly comfortable wins that should have been comfortable and were, the answers to both of those questions have been exceedingly affirmative at this point.
But a great sign for Hoosier fans, though, most of all, to see this in the early part of the season, because with a big chunk of I shouldn't say a big chunk, but a big chunk of production for this team coming from freshmen in Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renew, who is just going to be a problem for teams as we get further into the season. But it's not just those guys. You've got Miller Kopp looking very confident now. He didn't even take a shot in the first half of the Morehead State game. Nails 2 beautiful in transition threes in the second half of that game, and now has gone 6 of his last 8 from behind the arc. As good a stretch as he's had at IU. You've got Trey Galloway, who is looking confident and good shooting the ball. So they have weapons that they simply didn't have last year with guys that were here.
Yeah, I mean, I think about this. If you've ever played a sport and you've been on a team that's good, I mean, you just have more confidence. And you have more confidence because your teammates are good. You have more confidence because they'll pick you up. I mean, it's a horrible comparison, but like when I've played on soccer teams where I'm, because I play spring, summer, winner here in town. When I play on teams where I know I'm one of the worst players on the team, I tend to play well because I know that all the players around me will pick me up when I make mistakes. They'll put me in good positions to succeed. When I do something that, when I manage to make a good pass or a good interception or whatever, I'm pretty confident that that's going to lead to something good happening for my team because all the guys around me are good. All the guys around me are talented. And, we got so caught up in kind of this idea of, ending the Indiana needing to end the NCAA tournament streak. Can they power through Big Ten play? Can they beat Purdue? All these things that it's sort of kind of, I think, from an Indiana fan's perspective, these streaks that had gone on too long last season, that sometimes I think we forgot it was still Mike Woodson's first season.
Yeah.
And it was still year one of a new coach, a largely new roster, et cetera. And I think you just see much more of a kind of year two. I mean, Trace Jackson-Davis has 36 and 13 in these first two games. And we've barely talked about it. At least I know. I don't know if you guys have. It hasn't really occurred that much to me. It's been quiet. But it's been quiet because, other guys have looked really good. You mentioned Trey Galloway, Jordan Geronimo, Malik Renew. I would throw – quietly – I know his scoring numbers aren't always there, but I would throw Tamar Bates in there. He's second on this team in plus minus through two games.
Well, he's definitely has an aggressive mentality anytime he's in there, whether it's offensively or defense. He's looking to score or he's guarding. He's every like I watch these guys in pregame warmups. They look different this year than last year. Just in pregame warmups, they're getting their shots off quicker. They look more determined. They're moving and cutting harder in warm-ups. And I think that's one of the big differences that they were. It's like they were going through the motions last year. And this year, every moment on the court is serious and taken seriously, even in pregame warm-ups.
Well, I don't know if they're going through the motions last year, but I think when you aren't confident, whether it's in yourself, whether it's in your teammates, whether it's in what your coach is asking you to do because it's year one and, you're going through the motions. What you're doing is you're literally going through the motions because in your head, you're having to think your way through everything. You're having to think your way through step one and then step two and then step three and then step four, et cetera. Whereas I think a lot more of it is just instinctive for Indiana this year. I think they look better defensively. And again, listen, it's two games against teams they should have beaten comfortably. And they covered. Give them credit. They comfortably covered the spread, whether it was Vegas, Ken Palm, Torvik, whatever you want to use. They comfortably
last night's spread was 30, and they covered that by another 20.
Yeah. So give them credit for that. But we also recognize that these games aren't going to determine where this team's ceiling is. But you do see a difference in this team, in the confidence it has in itself, in the confidence it has in just sort of like how it needs to play, how its coach needs it to play, what its coach is asking it to do. When you said they were going through the motions last year, like I said, I don't think that was. I think sometimes that can, and I don't think you meant it this way, but I think sometimes that can have a connotation for people that guys are lazy. I think they were going through the motions because they had to think their way through things.
Right. Yeah, I meant that they were just doing the drills where now they are just uber focused on making
and everything seems like it's coming sort of easily and secondhand. Again, they're 7-8 years ago in this job, I would not, last night I wrote from home because I was so late. I just came home and I filed really late. I wrote that story. I would like to think anyway, smoothly, easily, whatever. 7-8 years ago, I would not have written so smoothly. Why? Because over time I've learned how to do what the Star wants me to do, how to do it what I perceive as well, according to how I want to, do that. Because obviously, you'll always have your own sort of personal imprint or whatever you want to say. And these guys, players make systems as much as systems make players. But you learn that comfort, you learn that confidence. And we heard, to their credit, to be fair to them, we heard throughout the preseason from players like Trace Jackson Davis, Xavier Johnson, Tamar Bates, Race Thompson. We're just more comfortable this year. Xavier Johnson told me a story about preseason where he totally admitted, like, I was swimming last year. Like, coach was drawing up plays and I was looking around thinking, what is this? Like, what is going on? What am I supposed to do here? And he said he had a moment in like a summer workout where Mike Woodson stopped it and said, I don't think you know the play. I think we need to stop because I don't think you know what you're supposed to do. And Xavier Johnson just shot back, yes, I do. Let me show you. I can show you what the play is. And his point was, like, we're just more comfortable. It's more second nature. And when sort of the structure is second nature and the instruction that you carry onto the floor is second nature, one, everybody is going to play more free because nobody's thinking, they're just playing. And two, a coach can start to do more. A coach can start to get more advanced and more nuanced. And that's the sort of thing we probably haven't, if Indiana is capable of this, seen a lot of yet, because you're not going to run your good stuff. You're not going to put your most intricate sort of, cleverest stuff on film against bad teams. But, I just think Indiana is more comfortable with this coach. And probably this coach is more comfortable with Indiana. And you're seeing that reflected in some of these performances.
Yeah, I'm just the second unit, Trey Galloway's, the Jordan Geronimo's, Tamar Bates, all those guys coming in are just looking so much more improved over last year, so much more confident, so much everything. And that is going to just be a gigantic difference for this team. Zach, what's up next for you, brother?
Just get ready for Xavier. I won't be making the trip to Columbus. So.
Oh, really?
Why not?
That's a shame.
Well, we're sending somebody. We're sending Wilson.
Yes,
Wilson Moore is our Dustin replacement.
The volleyball?
So what?
The volleyball?
Volleyball? Oh,
Wilson.
no.
Did that just sell for like a bunch of money?
I think so. I think I saw that on social media.
And was that your team that sold in the Premier League or is up for sale?
Liverpool is, well, this is a longer conversation. Liverpool may be up for sale. Liverpool's owners may just be looking for new investors. So someone who might come in with a very large sort of minority stake.
Yeah, that could be you, Zach.
But would buy enough to get a genuine seat at the table in terms of running the club.
That could be you, brother.
Looking for a flat out sale. So if we can get $4.5 billion together, I mean, if I'd won the Powerball,
pocket change, baby, pocket change. Zach Osterman from the Indian Star. Make sure you give him a follow and subscribe to the Star. Keep local papers alive, baby. I read it every day. Zach, thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You bet you. Have a great weekend. Zach Osterman from the Indianapolis Star. Make sure you give him a follow, like I said. We got more coming up from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios Annex as we're coming to you from BB's here on this Friday, as always, doing the live show. I haven't had anything to eat I've been so good today. It's been a rush and running around, but we got plenty more coming up. We're going to talk a little bit more basketball, but we got some football to get to as well because, hey, baby, the college football season is hitting its stride now as we're getting close to the last 4 games of the year. Stay tuned. We got lots more coming up. Brought to you by our good friends at Metalworks Brewing Company, a part of the Wild Club and Endeavor Hospitality. Just located right off the square in Bloomington on 6th Street. They love their craft beers, love for Metalworks, and being a part of the community. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Hey, this is John.
Good morning, JTG.
Great.
How we doing? What's up, guys?
We've
Not
avoided
much.
disaster this morning.
Yeah.
Our first segment was a little rough, but we've trudged through.
No, it's gotten to the point to where the commenters aren't afraid to say that they're tired of the Friday shows being
for real.
Yeah, I'll meet when you'll find one. I'll pull one and show you real quick. Where are we at here? Here we go. Time to ditch on-site Friday shows from BB's.
That's not sugarcoating it right there.
Friday shows are always the most annoying shows of the week.
That's no good.
Look at this dude's picture, though, man. That's freaky.
Yeah, when that guy has issues with it, you know you're on the wrong side. What's up, Five Lefts?
Oh my God! Almost.
Five Lefts is going to try to get you to talk basketball. He's going to want you to talk Iowa hoops.
That's right.
Yep, that ain't happening.
What's right? You know that's right. What's up?
What's up? Is Mitchell joining us?
You know, Mitchell's always a wild card forward.
I saw him
probably broke down
in
again.
every freaking possible way. I need to get
Angela. We will have
a
DJ during the 10-10 segment, though. He's a former Hoosier. Yeah, I told you this earlier this week.
Well, I thought he sent a text that he's worried about the hurricane.
Hey, he didn't say he wasn't coming on, and then he texted me his email this morning. So
post-game shows starting at after the Xavier game, folks. It's been scheduling issues with the co-hosts. These exhibition and preseason games don't mean squat anyway.
There's not much to talk about.
First-free membership for only $299. That's right, just $299 covers your green fees for the next 2 years at Eagle Point. It includes tee times starting as early as up to 10 a.m. with 1 week in advance tee time bookings. You just cover your card fees. Now, there is a limited number of memberships available, so go to eaglepoint.com right now and get yours today.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Not a bad Friday. We're deep into November, man, and I'll be honest with you. I played golf yesterday. I didn't think I was going to get to play again this year because of my knee and my hand. And then after a couple of days, I took some pain pills, and magically they worked. Jeffrey,
there you go.
Imagine that. I was like, wow, it was like magic juice. But how about yesterday, dude? It was like, I don't even know, but it seemed like it was like 72 degrees, just a perfect day again. And I'm like, every time I think these days are gone, we get another one. But guess what? If yesterday's high was 72, tomorrow's high 41 with a low of 27, followed by a low of 21 the day after that. And then next Wednesday, we're looking at a high in the 30s.
Yeah, it was 75 degrees in Iowa City yesterday, and I'm packing for the game this morning. It's like I'm going to the Iditarod. That's how much it's been 2 days.
Yeah, but you know what? Not going to complain. I think we've had bonus weather here in this year in November. So what are you going to complain about? Seriously, even last week's game for Indiana with Penn State was calling for 91% rain, and all it was wind. Which
wind's a big. I mean, pretty much with every. I send my picks out every Friday on Twitter, and I'm putting weather disclaimers. I put weather disclaimers on all my picks now because it's such an important part of some of these lines, especially with passing attacks. Like Ohio State. I mean, obviously Ohio State Northwestern. It played into how that game went big time. And then Maryland, Wisconsin too. I mean, obviously you got to keep an eye on that stuff because it makes a huge difference on how these games are.
There's a big Iowa fan there.
I see that.
Harbaugh. Yeah.
he also asked if you follow Iowa basketball, though.
Or does he get enough disappointment from the football team, Fran McCaffrey? I think I've seen enough of Jim Harbaugh's comments on the YouTube channel.
I love Fran McCaffrey personally. I just have one complaint. The damn FranCom is freaking reversed. It's wrong. The system is freaking reversed. FranCon 1 cannot be the highest one. That's like the lowest level. But the way they do it, it's the highest one. It makes no sense.
So, anyways, Rutgers, Michigan State. I think it's a better game than
that should answer your question, Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
How about those Iowa Hawkeyes? They played the same team. Jeffrey or Mitchell Paige jumped in. They played Bethune-Cookman a few nights ago. Indiana played them last night. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think the Big Ten is going to be fun in basketball this year, brother, because Indiana's going to be better. Iowa should be okay.
It's still football season. I've tried to make it clear. I do not want to talk about. If you guys want to talk basketball,
I'm just forcing him. I'm forcing it on him.
Mitchell, I'll just sit here.
Don't let him sit there. Make him just jump in here.
Hey, Mitchell!
I'm here, baby.
He's just been sitting there. He's got the Joshua tree behind him.
I do. Why don't
How's it going? How's it going? How's the golf game?
Golf game is whatever. I lost. Wow. I think I told you in the club championship I lost, so I'm down and out. I really wanted to come on to make sure that everybody knows how good the recruiting video that Dustin made is.
I told John we needed to bring it out for today.
Well, yeah,
I don't know if that's going to be possible or not.
This is not. I'm not aware of this. Why do I not know this?
What? Oh man! So on our
John, the producer, what are you doing? Where is this?
This is This Week in Indiana Football special.
He's working on it right now. I guarantee you, because he's not responding.
Podcast that John, Dustin, and Joe, the producer, and I do every week, just about Indiana football. And Dustin made a recruiting video trying to recruit me back to Indiana. If I were just a high school kid, how would you get me to come to Indiana? And it is all time. I was expecting like a 10-minute little or a 10-second basically monologue, and he went above and beyond, made a video, had an accent. If you haven't seen it, you have to
I gotta see this.
It's so good. It is so good.
Yeah, I'm ready for that. I mean,
yeah, he posted it on Twitter, so go check Dustin Schutte on Twitter.
I didn't see that, DS. I'll have to check it out.
Well, hopefully we're going to have it here in a little bit because I haven't seen it yet. That's a little surprising.
It's phenomenal. About 3 minutes of your day. It'll be probably the best 3 minutes you have.
I promise you that.
So what's up with you guys? That's what's most important. Indiana football. Hopefully we don't have to talk too much about them.
Yeah, well, Jeffrey wants to talk about basketball. He's
I heard how he's so excited to talk about basketball. Jeffrey's a big basketball guy right now.
He's fired up. He's just really happy. Indiana's got a good team this year, so he could not be more excited. Hey, Jeffrey, I got a football question for you. I was hoping Illinois was going to go 11 in Indiana. That would just been a marvelous thing. But that's not going to happen. But what they might do is go 10 and bottom portion of the Big Ten East, as their only two losses for the Big Ten West leader is to the worst team in the Big Ten East and the third worst team in the Big Ten East, which is a little shocking. Do you still think that there's not just a huge skew between those two sides? So I'm really not trying to pick on the West. It's just down this year, more so than normal. But man, Illinois' only two losses are to Indiana and Michigan State. And Michigan State has had a terrible year.
Yep.
Man, he's having no fun. He's not playing along.
Illinois has been so good. And I think in those two games that they played, they could have been playing anybody, and they would have got beat. They just looked not great.
Well,
They didn't
Indiana
look like
game was
they
the
have in the
second
other.
game of the year. They just, I can't believe they lost the Indiana game. I can't believe Indiana won that game. Actually, is what I should say.
Yeah,
I mean,
think
last week they had yardage total advantage in
everything.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the turnovers were about even. All that stuff, they just could not score in the red zone. I mean, those things happen. I really don't think East versus West has anything to do with this. It's matchups and how it goes. There's obviously been West teams that have beat the shit out of East teams as well. It happened this year. Everybody has the same thing. Ohio State and Michigan are leaps and bounds better than the other 12 teams in the conference. That's what's going on. It's been that way in the Big Ten for 70 years. Nothing has changed. All of the divisions are going away next year. I can't wait for them to go away so I can just be done with this conversation. And by the way, projecting forward, the team's records, how they've looked the last 10 years or so, they're going to look almost identical.
It's so funny.
It's not going to make any damn difference. Everybody's going to lose to Michigan and Ohio State as long as those coaches stay there and there's no dramatic, changes like that. So we're almost done with it and I'm happy about it.
College football playoffs, the first week when it came out at Tennessee at the top, I was shaking my head. I'm like, well, that's BS. Just because they beat Alabama, they jump Georgia, they jump Ohio State, but they got their comeuppance as when they played Georgia. But what aggravates me is I think they should have been fourth in that poll at best. And then when they lose that game, then you drop. Now they've only dropped to the fifth position. So they're right there waiting for the loser of the Michigan-Ohio State game.
Like DS and I talked about on the Eyes on Big Pod this week is, the inconsistencies. Like, I don't understand why Oregon is in front of LSU, but USC isn't. Like Oregon's roughly 8-1. USC's also 8-1. They're going to blow out Colorado tonight, so they're going to go 9-1. The committee could have had that, but for whatever reason, LSU gets moved in front of USC, but not Oregon. And that's an inconsistency to me. I don't understand why they do that. With that being said, I couldn't believe the committee put TCU fourth and Tennessee fifth, so that was a good thing to see. I'm not the biggest college football playoff guy, but there are some fun potential things out there. Like if you got a Michigan versus Tennessee, Ohio State versus Georgia college football playoffs for the first round, that would be crazy. DS likes having a rematch, Big Ten versus Big Ten, SEC versus SEC to give a Big Ten versus SEC championship. I get it. I thought about it more, DS, after you said that. That would be incredible as well.
I just want to avoid an all SEC championship game if I can. And we talked about this too. The only thing that really aggravated me from the playoff rankings, because I do think they got the top four right, so they kind of disguised us a little bit. But LSU at number 7, their losses are to a ranked bottom. I don't remember what Florida State's ranking is off the top of my head, but they are ranked. They lost to Florida State. They lost to number 4 or number 5 Tennessee. Penn State is like 7 spots back. And their 2 losses are to the number 2 and number 3 team. Now, LSU probably has they probably have 2 better wins than Penn State has on the resume. I won't argue that, but I don't know that there's 7 spots different when you look at the resume. That to me is the only gripe I have. I would put those 1-loss teams ahead of LSU. If you want to put LSU ahead of Penn State or Utah or some of those other teams, no problem with that. They probably have better wins. I just don't think it's 7 spots or whatever the math was on that.
Right. Yeah, and that's what gets everybody upset is the inconsistencies on why one logic applies for 2 or 3 teams, but not 1 or 2 teams after that. It just doesn't make any sense. If the only thing that would get me in favor of the 12-team playoff is if there's automatic qualifiers, so that everybody can just deal with what's going on. And if you win, you're in. If you're not,
you're not already in favor of a 12-team playoff.
I'm in favor of pulls and bowls, man. Let's go backwards. Yeah.
Let's go back. Say this before we take a quick break. Right now, a projected 12-team playoff team or a playoff would have 5 SEC teams in.
Right. That's what DS and I were having a text conversation about that this earlier this week. Where I'm like, am I wrong or?
BS.
Well, I mean, like I said, am I wrong, or is this the worst year to have a 12-team playoff? Like Alabama would still be in right
Well,
now.
it won't
Alabama,
happen. It's not going to happen this year, obviously. See, that drives me insane. Not that they're not a good team, but they've lost two games in their own conference. So by default, there's not room for you at the end, in my opinion, when you do that. Notre Dame.
It's just it will go from the elite blue blood invitational to the ever expanding blue blood invitational. That's what the 12-team playoff is going to be.
We got to take a quick break before John, the producer, cuts my head off. We got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from Baby's Market here in Bloomington, where you can always get the best of meats, bakery items, and more. We're also brought to you by our good friends from Andy Moore Honda. We're back with more here in Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're a business.
And we're adding to the party. What's going on, DJ?
Freaking Brady Bunch in here.
Hey, I'm trying, man. I'm having Wi-Fi and internet issues because of the storm, but I can see you guys. I can hear you, but you're broken. But I can hear you though.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I actually have to. I have to bounce off. I really just wanted to come and say Dustin's recruiting video is awesome.
Okay. I appreciate it, man.
I have to get. Tell me I've moved to the south. There's a lizard that's running around in our office, and
damn geckos, man.
We got to get him out. So that's where I'm about to go. It's always good to see the fellas. But I got to bounce.
See you, Mitch. Yeah, maybe DJ won't be joining us.
Well, I don't know how you could do it with a.
So he's a Bill Mallory era football player.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey DJ, if today's bad, we can try next week. You actually look a lot better now that you're outside.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So it sounds and looks a little better now that you're outside. You're definitely more clear.
Yeah. Your voices, they come in like they're broken. I can hear the conversation, so I'm kind of standing in one spot.
Hey, can we,
you guys? But it's okay, man. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. Do you want to come on next week instead? If this is kind of bad for you right now, this isn't good.
Well, as for me, as you guys know, I've been running from storms.
He has no idea what I'm saying.
And hopefully that's the last time I got to run from.
DJ, if you can hear me, I'm going to remove you, and I will give you a call here in a few minutes.
Okay. Go ahead and give me a call. I can hear you, so go ahead and give me a call.
All right. At least he understood that part. So we might be doing DJ next week.
Jesus, I'm
also,
taking.
I bet
Jim.
Oh, here we go. He's back. All right, we got so DJ's having connection issues. We're going to do him next week.
That's
I'm going to call him here in just a second.
That actually works out wonderful.
All right, here we go.
And sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Friday, baby. Game weekend. Big games tomorrow, of course, as college football is reaching its the sunset portion, baby. The last 4 weeks of the season, where champions are going to be made or broken.
Yep.
Your season or break or make them now with heading into conference playoffs, whether it's the Big Ten. Basically. The SEC is going to get two teams in.
Probably.
Because who does Tennessee play? Who do they have left to play?
Missouri, South Carolina, and I believe Vanderbilt is their schedule. I don't know what order. I know
thought
they
closed with Kentucky.
They've already beat the hell out of Kentucky a few weeks ago.
Yep.
So they're not going to lose probably.
South Carolina would be the only one that I keep in remotely.
And Michigan and Ohio State will not get the same love that the SEC gets. Only if Ohio State loses a little barely to Michigan. If Michigan loses, I don't think that they get the same love.
I agree that I don't think they would get as much love as Ohio State, so I agree with that. But I think if it's a really good game, either team being the loser in that scenario has a chance.
Dustin.
So we'll look at some of these matchups here. There's a couple games. There's going to be some stinkers, but there's going to be some really good games. 2 games in the Big Ten West. You got Purdue, Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa. And then in the East, the one that stands out to me this week is Maryland, Penn State, because I think Maryland or Mike Locksley even at some point has said, we haven't earned the right to call this a rivalry game, but Maryland's going to treat it as a rivalry game. Which of these 3 games, Greek, are you looking at most? What do you think is the most interesting? Obviously, pretty deep race for the Big Ten West, and then the East, I think we can probably put a pin in until the final week of the season. That's Michigan, Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm biased towards the Iowa-Wisconsin game. I'll be there. It's a slobber knocker every year. But pulling that off the plate for a second, Purdue, Illinois is the quasi de facto Big Ten West championship. And then you look at Illinois, they didn't look great versus Nebraska. In some ways, they looked better versus Michigan State, but didn't win the game. Now you've got Purdue that's looked awful the last 2 times out. But I swear that's where Jeff Brom wants you. He wants you to be a 7-point favorite and nobody thinking about him. So, to me, I don't know. I feel like if Purdue's up 17-3 early in that game, or Illinois is up 17-3 earlier in that game, neither one of those scores would really surprise me all that much. So to me, that's the one that's got my interest the most in that early kickoff, because I really think about anything could happen in that game.
I don't know if I mentioned this on the Eyes on Big Pot or not, so call me, and maybe this is a crazy line of thinking. I would have had more faith in Purdue to win this game if Illinois had won last week against Michigan State.
Yeah, okay. And I get your reasoning behind that.
Yeah. So that's going to be a really interesting game. I just think that Illinois is going to come out knowing what they have on the line, basically, and they can not quite clinch it, but come pretty damn close. So I think that that's why I like Illinois in this game. And then I thought that your reasoning about the Iowa-Wisconsin game and why Iowa has a good shot to win, because, a little bit of that tinfoil hat, of course they would lose to, Iowa State and Illinois and then turn around and beat Wisconsin. But to me, this is a game that I think both teams are starting to, late in the season, are starting to hit their stride, find their identity a little bit. Maybe it's a little too late, but it's still a rivalry game, a lot on the line.
Yeah, for me, if somebody's going to sit and give reasoning why Iowa's going to win the game, I'll listen. If somebody gives me reason why Wisconsin's going to win the game, pretty much it seems like it's a coin flip type of game. Certainly the team that runs the ball will have a very high chance to win. And Iowa has done horrible with turnovers in this game. They're great in turnovers almost the entire year. And then suddenly they get the fumble-rooskies when they play Wisconsin. So I'd love to see that not be the case for once. But, it's a blackout. It's going to be cold, a little blustery. That's how an Iowa-Wisconsin game should be. Points are at a premium. Punting will be a huge part of who wins the game. It should be pretty fun.
The highest point total on the board, I believe, I'm looking, but I have not seen anything even come close to the Indiana-Ohio State point spread that is taking place at the Horseshoe in Columbus. Indiana is a 40-point dog.
Yeah.
Do you know how bad you have to be a 40-point underdog?
Well, And I think Indiana.
I don't care that they're playing Ohio State. 40 freaking points in the college as a Big Ten team.
Yeah, I mean, obviously playing Ohio State has something to do with that spread.
Yes,
but I think Indiana was a much better.
Northwestern played them within a touchdown or two touchdowns, I think.
Right, because of playing underwater in that game, obviously had a lot to do with that. Indiana has just got so many issues at quarterback right now. I mean, they unportal Tuttle, play him, he gets hurt. Now they got to go back to a guy that they just replaced.
How bad do you feel for that kid? He's entering the portal to leave, but I blame him. He shouldn't have played, and I don't think that. He not only should he have not played, he shouldn't have been put into play. That should
Diaz called it. I don't want to take Diaz's thunder. Diaz called it a week ago.
And it should have been Dexter Williams, not Sorsby. How Dexter Williams gets moved to the fourth spot, I have no idea. But it's more than aggravating to me because I've asked this question numerous times to the coaches. Josh Henderson, the running back. I've been beating on this drum, I know, but he has been their best running back over the course of the season. But he gets the least amount of carries, and it continues. When they put Dexter in finally, he had 4 carries for 24 yards. He averaged 6 yards a damn carry. They don't have anybody close to that other than Josh Henderson. But yet, Josh Henderson is averaging 7 carries a game.
Yeah.
The answer for the last game was, well, do you know what we were on third down? Because they were terrible on third down. They didn't have a lot of series. Well, maybe give him the ball on first, second, and third downs on the ones you do have. Or I want to see those two guys together. What they've done, Connor Bazelak has been okay. But he's just been okay. And now part of that may be because of the offensive line. I'm sure it is. He's got no protection.
Yeah.
But his accuracy has not been that great. He's just been okay. So I'm like, put Dexter Williams in, let him learn, let him run. It gives a different dynamic to the defense, especially when you have Josh Henderson, who can also get some yards. Now you've got 2 different guys to worry about. Defenses have not had to worry about squat from the Indiana offense this year. Give them something to have to worry about. Try. And I don't understand the decisions that have been made by this staff this entire season. So I want to give them a pass, but it's very difficult to do so.
I have been picking up, on Twitter and whatnot, the anger and frustration in Indiana fans for Tom Allen is way higher than I would have thought it would have ever been just 6 weeks ago. And things go fast these days with how fans feel about their head coaches and then their head coach's employment status.
Yeah, and I mean, I said it was a fireable offense to play Jack Tuttle because I just don't think it sends a great message to your locker room more than anything else. I understand you're from a perspective of I don't have a problem with Tom Allen keeping him around. I think Jim Harbaugh did this at Michigan with Brandon Peters, allowed him to use the weight room. But basically, you're not going to be part of this team. If you enter the transfer portal, that's your decision. And again, the kid's leaving, so you're not even preparing then for next season. You're not even trying to get these other guys that experience. And that's what's got to be incredibly frustrating. If I'm Dexter Williams, now I'm thinking about entering the transfer portal. And guess what? I've got some buddies on the roster who might want to enter the transfer portal and consider our options elsewhere too. To me, it was just such a detrimental move, an unnecessary move to the program. At some point, you have to realize we're probably not going to beat Penn State. Let's try to have some fun. Let's try to get some kids on the field. Let's try to get some sort of momentum heading into next season. Or the offseason, it's just I've gone off on this for 3 weeks.
Yeah, when you first said, playing Tuttle's a fireable offense, I thought it was spicy Schutte. But over time, I think it's prophetic Schutte is what it was. It was a good call. And yeah, I don't know. I enjoy when Indiana's good at football because I think their fans enjoy a 6-6 season, like most teams would, enjoy like a 10-2. Well, I mean, it's nice to see fan bases.
It's true.
It's nice to see fan bases that don't have ridiculous expectations that aren't realistic. I don't think Indiana fans are unrealistic, but unfortunately, there's been some decisions by Tom Allen that are bad, but I also think there's been some things that have been outside of their control with injuries and how things have gone out with the offensive line. And, at this point, it's just like, I don't know, it's just a try to finish out the season type of deal. It's tough.
Well, everyone wants to give him every benefit and hopefully that it works because there's no change happening this year. I can tell you that from a financial standpoint. But changes have to be made, decisions have to be made, better decisions have to be made. I'm worried about the defense.
Yeah,
the defense. The guy that was fired, whatever. Norm Charlton from last year. Where do you go? North Carolina. They're flipping 8-1 and ranked.
Not because of their defense, though.
Well,
Norm Charlton's a pitcher for a former pitcher.
I was going to say, I think I traded baseball cards with Norm Charlton.
I've said that like 50 times. The former Reds pitcher. What was
Charlton
Warren?
Charlton
Warren.
I like it.
It's hilarious. Yeah, I've done that several times. But Indiana's defense, healthier than they were last year. They didn't have Tywan Mullen. While they have lost Cam Jones, their secondary's been healthy all year, but it has been torched. The defense is getting torched, and Tom Allen took the defense back over calling plays. That is what's scary because now you've got an offense that Walt Bell's had his hands tied somewhat, but I really question some things that he's done along the way as well. And then in the defense looking poor, man, that's just not a good sign.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, did you enjoy the play?
Exactly.
This is what I'll say about that defense, and then I'm going to ask Greg for some of his top bets of the week. What I think is happening here is Indiana cannot tackle. Tom Allen, his focus has always been on takeaways. And you know what? When they had Kevin Wilson as head coach and they could move the ball offensively, that complements that because you're creating as many possessions knowing you're going to put up 50 points in a game. When you can't get turnovers or when you do create turnovers and your offense can't move the ball, it doesn't mean a damn thing. So they can't tackle. They're not particularly good at forcing turnovers. And when they do force turnovers, their offense is so bad they can't do anything with it. So they have to go back to fundamentals. They had
an interception at the 31-yard line in last week's game and got to the 19 and proceeded to lose 26 yards over the next few plays. And not only they started in field goal range, and got up into the red zone and worked their way back out of field goal range.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Better get your top picks before we close out. Top bets of the week.
Best bets this week is, believe it or not, I've got Nebraska plus 31. Too many points. I think people are Michigan. I think everybody's looking at Casey Thompson being out, which I get, but I actually think that winds up helping the line because I think Nebraska is going to run the ball a lot with running quarterbacks, and they're going to shorten the game down a little bit. And Michigan just has not been the kill people, 48-3 type of game. Right. Now they're going to win 38-13, they're going to pound Nebraska. Don't get me wrong, but just 31 points is a lot. There's not a lot in the Big Ten I love this week. I would probably take Purdue and the points, but honestly, that scares me either way. I like Rutgers in the points, and then
What about Ohio State in the points?
That one is kind of like. If it's good conditions, I would take Ohio State to cover, but it doesn't look great.
I will give up unless it's a driving storm.
It is. It could be.
Well, if it is that, I wouldn't. But if it's not, I give up the 40. I don't think Indiana can stop them. I think it's going to be a 56-7 game, and that's
52-7 was my prediction. So yeah,
I think I picked 56-7, but I was being a little conservative. I think Ohio State wants and needs to put points up. They want to get those pretty boy points because of what I talked about earlier with the Michigan game coming up looming. They want those pretty boy points. So if they lose a close one to Michigan, that they stay up there like Tennessee did.
Pretty boy points. I like that. I might steal
Pretty
that.
boy
That's
points.
good.
That's what I like.
Yep.
Man, it's been another great weekend, guys. I cannot thank you enough as always. Make sure you catch Eyes on Big podcast with Jeffrey the Greek and Big Kurt. When's Big Kurt coming on?
Never.
Why? I've never met him.
He'll keep it that way. That's just how he is.
He's Oscar the Grouch, man.
Yep.
Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com co-hosting as always. Great to have him along. He makes the show better. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Make sure you go there and get signed up and give Alec a follow. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Mitchell Paige, of course. What happened to Mitchell?
He had to chase a lizard out of his office.
What?
And that's not like hype. That's not a pun or anything like that. It was an actual lizard.
That's so Mitchell Paige. Jeffrey the Greek, of course. Well, I've already mentioned him, so I won't mention him again. He's not worth. No, I'm just kidding. Can't thank you guys enough. John, the producer, of course, as well, keeping us between the white lines. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. We're back on Monday to start it all over again. Of course, make sure you follow Indiana, Ohio State tomorrow. The postgame show starts next week after the Xavier game. We've tried to get it started, but we're just going to wait till Xavier, baby, till it gets for real. Jeffrey the Greek, I hope you have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Dustin, I hope you have a great weekend.
You as well.
John, I hope you have a great weekend. And everybody, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Until Monday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.